Hi, Nikunj.
Hi, hi, hi.
Namaskaram, Namaskaram all of you.
Namaskaram, Sadhguru.
Nikunj, how are you doing?
Namaskaram, Sadhguru. It gives me extraordinary pleasure and honor to invite Sadhguru. Sadhguru has been kind enough to speak to all of us for next 90 minutes at a time when we are going through extraordinary times. The idea of this webinar is to get insights and get wonderful ideas about how can we be better prepared to handle these turbulent times. I'm a professional television anchor, so I'm used to asking questions, but I have three panelists with me who are used to demanding answers, who actually would be joining us today in the course of the conversation.
How
So
are you
I
all doing, how are you all doing in Mumbai? You're swimming through a sea of virus, so I hope all of you doing well and safe, huh?
Yes.
So let me quickly introduce my panelist here. Mr. Sridhar Raj is Executive Vice President and Managing Director with Hexon Manufacturing. We've got Mr. Rajan Navani, Vice Chairman and Managing Director with Jetline Group of Companies, and Ms. Shiv Priyananda, Partner with J. Sagar Associates. Uh, and before I start the discussion, I must also share that before I met Sadhguru and Isha volunteers 5 years ago, I was a lost soul. I was trying to find the purpose of my life. And then I met an Isha volunteer who taught me how to really walk on the path of inner engineering. So, both personally and professionally, Isha Foundation, the tools of inner engineering have eventually helped me discover the basic purpose of my life. And our engagement today is coming at a time when there is chaos, confusion, panic, and even fear in the world. But how can we define and identify the purpose of the life? I guess that is what we would like to understand from Sadhguru today. Sadhguru, well,
Somebody Nikunj, I'm sorry, but somebody is speaking over you, huh? Some two, three people are speaking over you, whoever that is in the background.
I will just. Can I start? If the
Yes, I
administrator
think it's
permits?
best you start again, please.
Right. I just want to share my personal experiences before I start the panel. I was a lost soul till about 5 years ago, till I met an Isha volunteer. I started walking on the path of inner engineering and decided not only the purpose of my life, I have used simple techniques like inner engineering to understand that there is fear of mortality, which all of us need to be aware of. We need to understand how to celebrate life even in these challenging times. So, the purpose of today's webinar is to perhaps understand from Sadhguru in this trying times when stock markets are down, everybody's feeling lost, there is a health crisis, there is a medical issue. How can we emerge stronger and as a winner? And how can we become better as a society? So, Sadhguru, people are using words like fear, panic. Financial market commentators like me are using words like financial Armageddon. We are all counting deaths. When do you think we will soon start celebrating life?
Namaskaram to every one of you. Well, Nikunj, you said it's about becoming aware of the fear of mortality. No, it is just becoming aware of our mortal nature means to understand that we are on a limited lease of time. This is extremely important for a human being to know that we have a limited amount of time, so that… because we definitely have a limited amount of energy. If we want to be making maximum impact in the world that we live in, it's very, very important that our energies and the time are planned properly so that whatever intelligence, capabilities, geniuses that we have or ingenuity that we have will find best expression. So being conscious of your mortality is not about fear, but just most sensible thing to do. Because if you think you're immortal, you will have a surprised look on your face when you die. That's not a good way to die, because Uh, countless number of people have died before us, and if we don't understand we are mortal, we will live a silly life. Right now that's happening in the world, the way people are arranging their life, the way they're accumulating things in their life, it looks like they're going to live forever, at least they have a hope, it looks like. No, nobody has lived forever. Fortunately, nobody has lived forever. Everybody who were here, let's say 150 years ago, are fortunately dead. When I say fortunately, I know people will get at me, oh, you're happy that they're dead. Yes, I am, because dead should be dead. When their time is up, we must die. We don't want untimely death for anybody. But when our time is up, we must exit, otherwise how will the next generation live? I want you to just look back and see, let's say 10 generations of people lived right now. All the people who died in the last 200 years woke up. You think we can live here or the next generation can manage their life? It's very important that everybody finishes their cycle of life and leaves, that is the nature of existence. But we are behaving like how the tyrants behave. Usually in the tyrants, when they rule for 20 years, they want to rule forever, it doesn't matter, his hand is shaking, he can't see properly, even if he's 85, 90, still he wants to rule. This is just stupid. So, becoming aware of mortality is not about fear. Only if you're aware of your mortality every moment of your life, will you arrange your time and energy equation in a sensible manner. Without arranging your time and energy equation properly, you cannot have an impactful life, you will have a wasteful life.
Sadhguru, everybody is using the new popular word, which is work from home. Now, we are not used to working from home. How can somebody work from home?
Well, see, in the last generation, all the ladies were working from home and it was fine. If you go back further 1 or 2 generations, when a massive amount of population was in agriculture, they all worked from home because their home was around the field, they just went out, worked and came back home. It was considered the greatest fortune that you can come home for lunch, eat well, rest for some time, again go on to work. Always in the villages, this was said that the biggest fortune is your home and your field are together. They thought it's the greatest thing. But now suddenly you don't want to be at home, I don't know what's the equation at home If the equation at home is good, yes, you want to work from home, what's the problem? And especially, what is the point of technology if you don't work from where you are? Let me tell you this. You are in Mumbai, all right? Let us say not now, because of the virus, nobody is on the street. In a normal time, let's say in 2019 or 2018, 5:30 in the evening you're driving, whichever street you're driving in. The street in which you're driving, on the side in which you're driving, the traffic is full and thick. And the opposite side also, it's full and thick. What does this mean? People who live here work there. People who live there work here. What is the point of this, I'm asking? What is the point of everybody going somewhere to work other than where they live? I think it's a great thing, this is a good use of technology. There are certain jobs where you have to go on the field and do things, they must go out. Rest of the people who are just going to punch keys on the computer, why don't they sit at home and do it? Because the amount of buildings that you're building, the infrastructure that you're building, the waste of money, the waste of material, the ecological damage you're causing by building the roads, the automobiles and the buildings, office buildings, how many millions of square feet of office buildings, all you have is table, chair, computer, table, chair, computer. You can have this table, chair, computer in your bedroom and still work, isn't it? What is the problem? Any time of the day or night you could work, there is really no problem about this, and it'll give you so much flexibility. But right now, people are not going to work just to work, probably they are complaining. Like how the college students have become the university students, they're not going to the university just to study, they're going for socializing and partying and whatever. Probably a lot of people are working like this also
Sadhguru, you've been sending a message to your followers and to everyone on social media that it is very important to stay alive. And in order to do that, keep your energy levels high, focus on immunity, and rebuild your energy levels and follow the path of yoga. Can you guide us again on that?
So whether I say it or not, it doesn't matter whether somebody says it or not. The most important thing in your life is to stay alive. Let everybody get this first. Everything else is secondary. Everything else, what I eat, where I live, how I live, everything is secondary. The most important thing is I am alive. Because if this one thing is absent, what does everything else mean? I am dead, but I have a palatial cemetery for me built. What does it mean? No, no. It doesn't matter if you're thrown to the dogs after you're dead, but when you're alive, you must stay alive. So this is the biggest responsibility because particularly now that you ask this question, it's very important. After nearly 3 months of lockdown, a whole lot of people are getting into a point of frustration where they're thinking it's hell with it, anyway I'm going to go out and do what I do, let's see what happens, kind of attitude is coming. This is very dangerous. It is because of this attitude, again you're seeing a spike across the world. In every place, again a second level of spike is happening, mainly because a whole lot of urban population is getting frustrated and coming to a kind of a desperation. It doesn't matter what happens, I want to have my haircut. This is a big this is a big conversation in United States. I want to have my haircut. Well, there was a time when everybody wanted to grow their hair long, they've just forgotten 70s and 80s. When everybody had long hair, there was no problem, that was the thing. But now, even though there is a risk to their life, and you're risking other people's lives, that's the most important thing. If you don't care about your life, maybe it's your right to be so. But if you behave irresponsibly, if you behave in a way that's not conducive, if you become the carrier, you're risking other people's lives. This is not a joke. You have no business, nobody has any business to risk somebody else's life. His own life, unfortunate if he thinks it's not worth it, but you have no right to risk somebody else's life. Right now, our lives are always connected, but right now it's super connected, our mortality is connected now. Because our mortality is connected, each one of us need to behave responsibly. There is no need to get frustrated. You're getting frustrated because you don't know how to deal with yourself. You do not know how to manage your own thought and emotion. This is the whole problem with most human beings. If you do not know how to manage your thought and emotion, you're an accidental piece of life. When you're an accidental piece of life, being anxious is normal. Right now, everybody is saying anxiety is normal. Anxiety is not normal. When you were a child, just look back and see when you were 5 years of age, joy was normal, isn't it? When did anxiety become normal? If you have grown up, if you're at the age of 5, if you are joyful, by the time you're 30, you should be ecstatic. But instead of that, you're saying anxiety is normal. This is mainly because you are managing your own faculties accidentally. Your thought, your emotion, everything is happening in compulsive reaction to the situations in which you exist. When you live like this, anxiety will be normal, depression will be normal, mental problems will be normal. Right now, WHO is saying more than the virus, there is going to be a mental illness pandemic. So as if what we have on hand in the form of virus threatening people's lives, this could take away all people's grandmothers, grandfathers, even parents. It could wipe out the whole older generation. As if that's not bad enough, now we're going to have a mental illness pandemic. All the young people are going to go crazy. What is this? This is simply showing that as a generation of people, we have made ourselves unfit to live, we can't handle a situation. People are saying this is worse than Second World War. Well, they have not been there, they only read it in the newspaper, all right? What is Second World War? If you were there on the battlefield or around that place, then you would know what is a war. See, India has fought 3 or 4 battles in the last 75 years, all right? Wars, rather. But our brave soldiers fought and stopped the battle at the border. Suppose the battle happened in Mumbai, do you know what it would be? So people have no sense of what is a battle. Everybody is going about blasting away, saying this virus is more than World War II, or it's equivalent to World War II, never before such a thing, nothing like that. All we have to… the virus is very simple thing. If, when it was announced that this virus has come, let's say to our country or to the world, if all of us you were talking about inner engineering, if there was a little bit of that kind of sense in people, when whether the United Nations or our government or the Prime Minister, somebody said, see, this is the thing, all of you sit and meditate for 14 days, don't go near anybody. If all of us just closed our eyes and sat for 14 days, virus would be gone by now, all right? Because we are in such a state of restlessness, we can't keep in one place, we can't manage ourselves properly. Because of this, the virus is spreading across the world as if it's going by itself. It cannot go anywhere without us. A virus has no life of its own, let's understand this. It's not really a life, it's a pre-life state. It can only thrive in a living cell in our bodies. If we keep quiet, if we keep 6 feet distance from every other human being for 14 days, it's finished right now. But we are spending trillions of dollars across the world, destroying our economies, ruining ourselves. Now mental health health pandemic. What is all this rubbish? This is simply because we as human beings have not learned how to manage our own faculties. Our own thought and emotion is driving us crazy.
I'm getting a lot of questions from the attendees here, and I would encourage some questions here. But like I said that, today, instead of one person asking questions which I do for a living, I've got some help today in form of 3 panelists. So I will encourage my first panelist, Mr. Sridham Dharamrajan, to ask his question to Sadhguru. Mr. Rajan, welcome once again. I would request you to ask your question to Sadhguruji.
Sadhguru, namaskaram.
Namaskaram, Sridhar, how are you doing?
Good, thank you, Sadhguru. It's an honor to share the screen space with you. Thank you so much. Sadhguru, this group consists of successful CXOs from various industries. You have spoken a lot in many forums on environment and sustainability. There is also a lot of discussion happening worldwide today on ESG, which is environment, air quality, and groundwater depletion, or other social issues like diversity issues, labor relation issues, and of course, governance issues like business ethics and transparency. I just wanted to hear from you, how do we inspire leaders to invest capital in this ESG space?
Well, this is a new term, ESG, but we need to understand this. The urban populations in the world, particularly in India, are talking about water shortages only because the waterworks in urban centers have not been able to fulfill the requirement of the population or the citizenry that lives there. But you know, you also live in… Sridhar, you live in Mumbai, is it?
I live in Bangalore, Sadhguru.
Okay. Bangalore not so much, but if you lived in Mumbai or in Chennai, whether it's Hindi cinema or Tamil cinema, if you look back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was very, very common, this scene, where a woman will be walking with a pot on her head, water pot, she's going in the village, and the hero will come and she will sing a song, he will sing a song, she'll dance around with the pot, and sometimes they smash the pot, sometimes they go home with the pot, whatever. This is because this lady in the cinema is carrying an empty pot. In the village, a woman is carrying a pot full of water, which weighs anywhere between 15 to 25 kilograms on her head. She's not going to sing, she's not going to dance, she's not going to romance anybody, she just wants to get to her place with somehow, okay? With all the little energy that she has in her body, she wants to somehow get there with this heavy thing sitting on her head. So this romantic depiction of a village woman always carrying a pot on her head and going, nothing romantic about it. Nothing absolutely romantic about it. This clearly shows water problems existed severely across rural scape in India. Only when it enters the city, well, televisions are talking about it, newspapers are talking about it, everybody's talking about it, people who have access to these things are talking about it. Otherwise, nearly 60% of India's population always has been experiencing severe water situations. But today at least it is finding some representation because urban people are suffering. So having said that, what is the problem? Let's understand this. We're talking only about the Indian problem or the global problem?
No, just the Indian problem.
Okay. In India, we must understand, there is only one source of water for us. Because only 4% of our rivers and water is coming from glacial deposits in the Himalayas. 96% of our water is just monsoon water. When the monsoon rains come, right now only wind is blowing in South India, there is not yet any big rain, small rains have happened. Monsoon somehow is playing truant with us. Maybe it'll come a little late, but when monsoon rains come, it goes down into the soil or supposed to go down. But these days it's flowing on the surface. This is why when rains come, Mumbai people know very well and Chennai people also have learnt it in recent years. Rain means flood, within 3 months again drought. Why this is happening is, the only reservoir that you have is actually soil. Your dams are not real reservoirs. They have very badly… it's a bad engineering of, our resources. This has happened because we just copied things from temperate climate, where temperatures are much lower, where water will be frozen in certain… at least 1 or 2 months in a year or 3 months in a year, waters will be frozen. So they built large dams. We did just the same thing. In a tropical climate, standing water means approximately 65 to 70% of the water will evaporate, that is a fact, all right? So this is how we are doing things, because our brains have been sold out. Traditionally, we had our own ways of managing this water, because we understood that soil is the ultimate reservoir in the world. The soil holds 8 times, that is 800% more water than all the lakes, ponds, rivers put together. That is how much water soil holds. Just the topsoil, this is just 39 inches of soil holds that much water. But what have we done to the soil? If the soil has to hold water, it needs a certain level of organic content, only then it holds water. Now, we have ripped it off. If you fly from… you're in Bangalore, fly from Bangalore to Delhi, every 5 minutes look out of the window and see. You will see a brown desert, except for a few small patches of greenery around rivers and lakes and something here and there. Largely you will see a brown desert. This is what we have made of a very rich tropical land, where streams and rivers were flowing all over the place. Our idea of a river is now, we have Ganga, Kaveri, Narmada, Krishna like this, Godavari, whatever. See, you need to understand, a river is only a destination, it is not the source of water. The source of water is the soil. The source of water is monsoon. The monsoon rains have accumulated in the soil and slowly oozes out and flows out in the form of small streams. For example, Kaveri has or had over 120 tributaries. Today, more than 50 of them are completely gone, rest are only becoming seasonal. So this is why Kaveri itself is seasonal, most people don't know this. Kaveri doesn't touch the ocean for over 5 months in a year, it's become a seasonal river. What was a perennial river for millennia has become a seasonal river because soil has lost its ability to hold water. Simply because soil can hold water only if there is organic content. Organic content can come to the soil only if there are leaves from the trees and animal waste, otherwise it cannot happen. Unless we put back India minimum 40% under tree shade, if we don't do that, there is no future for Indian soil. No future for Indian soil means no future for Indians, that's what it means. We better understand this, because 52% of our soil has been declared as, degraded soil. It is not as it was. What it was 50 years ago, what it is, its organic content has come down significantly below that point. In United Nations, the standard for soil to be called as soil is 2% organic content. Today, nearly 52% of the soil has 0.05% of organic content. This means it's nearly becoming sand. If you take out that little organic content, it'll become sand after some time. So desertification is happening. We are working with United Nations UNCCD for prevention of desertification in this country. But things are happening, people think it's great. They think if you plant 2.4 billion trees, it's great, but it's not. It's just a drop in the ocean. It needs to happen on a massive scale. So what should governments do? When will investments go into it? As a part of this, right now, we are in the process of seeding a new campaign across the globe. This is called as Conscious Planet. Because we have not conducted these things consciously, that's our only problem. We have the brains to do it, we have the means to do it, we have the technologies to do it, but we have not conducted this consciously. Right now, if you talk about ecology, you can actually… Nikunj can make a survey in Mumbai and see how many people in Mumbai are aware of ecological issues. Their idea of ecology is there's no water in the tap. No, that's a social issue, I'm saying. That's a civic issue in Mumbai city. That's not an ecological issue. The idea of all the campaigns that are going on are just like this. I use less water to brush my teeth. Well, it is a civic issue what you're handling, you're not handling ecological issue as such. If you use less water, good for Mumbai waterworks. If you put out less sewage, good for the Mumbai municipality. But this is not going to solve any ecological issues. Ecological issue means you need to maintain… The fundamental thing in a tropical country is soil. If you do not enrich the soil, there's no way out. Why is it we are not investing in it? See, nearly 90% of the nations on this planet are democratic. Democratic means people's will. Today, if you make a survey in Mumbai city, how many people are actually aware of serious ecological situations we are facing? I would say 1%, maximum 2%. 1% is a realistic number. A generous number would be 2%. Rest of them know water shortage. They do not know the ecological disaster which is unfolding on a different level altogether, which doesn't maybe affect the urban person right now, but it will come to him one day. Because a city is an artificial condition that we have created, all right, with all kinds of services. But in natural conditions, it's different. If you just drive out, if you just drive south of Mumbai, just 50 kilometers, you will see what is the condition. You will know what's the condition. In a city, moving from your air-conditioned car to air-conditioned building, you may not be feeling it. The little walk that you have, a few steps, there itself you're sweating it out. Just go south of Mumbai, 50 to 60 kilometers, and just feel how it feels there. Then you know what is ecology. So as a part of this, our thing is, right now, our aim for this, we are slowly stitching together lot of prominent influencers in the world to own this project, because what we need right now is, ecology should become an election issue. If political parties don't understand that people really want this, why will they invest in that? Why will they invest in that? Because the life of a democratic government is 4 years or 6 years maximum in some countries. In some countries, in United States it's 4 years, in India it's 5 years. So now, the government elected right now will only try to invest in such a way that something will bear result in 5 years' time, because they have to win the next election. This is the problem and desperation of a democratic government, that they have to win the next election. If they invest on something which will take 15 to 20 years to yield result, you think people will vote them back? Do you believe so? People are not that mature. They want immediate results too. It doesn't matter where it comes from. They want unrealistic results. Accordingly, governments are investing in unrealistic manner because that's what people want. So we are looking at how to make ecological aspects simple. For every latitudinal segment, let's say there is an equatorial segment, there is tropical, subtropical, temperate like this, we are segmenting, and our teams are working with the UN teams on this subject to make it like this. 5 things that must happen in your country. We want at least 60% of the population to know What are those 5 things? Anywhere you see, is it happening, not happening, every citizen must know, at least 60%. 2 or 3 things that should never happen in your country, that also they must know. So, 60% of the population means 5.26 billion people on this planet have franchise, that means they can elect a government, they have voting rights. We want 3 billion people to become conscious in their country, whichever band of latitudinal band in which they are, what should happen, what should not happen, simple 5 things. Right now, anything ecology means if you start reading, it looks like PhD substance. Nobody is going to read that, nobody knows what it is. They're only concerned about whether there is water in my tap or not, okay? So, we want 60% or 3 billion people on the planet, 3 billion adults to become conscious that these are the 5 things that must happen in my country, these are the 2 or 3 things that should never happen in my country. Once this happens, we also are making lists of top 3 political parties in every democratic nation and making sure in the next 3 to 5 years' time, on their election manifesto, number 1 agenda being ecology, which it should be, is not going to work. Number 1 is economy, that is why Nikunj is on ET, all right? Number 1 is economy. Number 2 item must be ecology in every nation, on every political party's manifesto. We are working towards this right now. We are seeing how in the next 3 to 5 years, number 2 item in every election, in every country of all political parties becomes ecology. Then only investments will happen. Without government investing and putting the government machinery behind it, there will be no success. I can do something, you can do something, somebody else can do something. This is all patchwork for a massive problem that is slowly, engulfing us. I'm sorry, I took too much time because this is a subject.
Thank you, Sadhguru. Thank you for your response. Nikunj, I think you have muted yourself. You need to unmute. Yeah.
All of us are trying to understand the new normal, like I said, how to mute and unmute. Normally, as professional television anchors, it's difficult for us to stop, but today I guess technology stopped me. Let me also now encourage Mr. Rajan Navani to please go ahead and ask Sadhguruji's question.
Namaskaram, Sadhguru, and always a joy to be in your presence, even though it's electronic today. You just talked about ecology, and something that precedes that is economy. So my question is really around the current crisis. Sadhguru has exposed the socio-economic inequalities that exist around the world, not only in India, very drastically, and this has required governments and philanthropic organizations to step up significantly. India, as a country, the richest 1% of Indians walk away with 73% of the country's wealth, and about, on the other hand, 67 crore Indians saw their wealth grow only by 1% last year. So, what is really your vision for us to be able to build an equitable, inclusive India, and how do we reimagine the India, and how do we get there, in emerge out of this crisis?
एक क्या पूरा मिलकर राउंड लो मैं देखना क्या क्या चल रहा है.
So, see, we need to understand this, how we have built our economies. Nearly 70% or over 70% of the world's investment is in just 32 cities. So naturally, people are just piling up into these cities. In India, I don't have the numbers, but as you said, 73% of the wealth is in the hands of 1%. I'm sure that 1% is definitely in the cities, not in the village.
Right.
So, one massive problem, this is pre-virus that we were facing, was that it was expected by 2030, 1.6 billion people will migrate on this planet. See, migration, I think in India, I think we have had a little picture. That is not the whole picture. When people migrate in hostile circumstances, it's very different. A little picture, what kind of suffering it will bring to people when they migrate in an unplanned way. The migrant labor issue that you saw in India is a reverse migration, they're going back home. That is one kind of migration, that is not that bad, I'm telling you. When individual people drag their families and go to an unknown place, not knowing what will happen to them, with… especially for women and children, what happens to them, the level of degradation that happens, the level of inhuman ways that… inhuman situations that they will have to face. Many of those people who are living in filth in Mumbai city, probably they lived on a small piece of land with some dignity somewhere. Maybe they were very poor, they wore tatters, they were not well nourished, but they lived with some sense of dignity. But now they came here because here there is a pile-up of wealth, so they came here to nibble at it a little bit. But look at the conditions in which they're living, and what happens to women, what happens to children, what kind of atmosphere they grow up in is completely different. And this migration in India was expected that by 2030, we would have 220 million people migrating to urban centers. 220 million people, if you distribute them among 10, 15 cities of India, can you imagine what will be the condition of your city? Already nearly 40% are living in slums. And if another that many number came, nearly 70–80% will be living in slums. And you think the… whatever wealth you have, whatever well-being you have, you think it's safe, and is it even worth living like that? Because if you want to live well, everybody around us should be living well, otherwise how do you live well? You can't just live in just a tower of your own wealth and say, I am well. You cannot live like that. You have to see everybody around you is doing well, then only there is real well-being for a society. That's when you can enjoy your well-being, or whatever you have earned you can enjoy. Right now we are creating enclaves of, what do you call them, residential developments and other things. Why do you do that? Because you want to live among people who earn like you and who have similar things like you, so that you can believe this is the world and live well. But if you're living in a slum, you build a beautiful palace and live. Well, that's not well-being, you will always live in fear and anxiety. That is not the way to live for a human being, forget about the consequences. So, the investment is piled up in one or two places, this is why this is happening. This virus is a very good thing in this sense. I'm not saying it's a good thing in terms of loss of life and loss of economy and all this. One thing is reverse migration is happening. Those who've gone back to villages, in my estimate, more than 80% of them will not come back at least till Diwali, even if the virus goes away tomorrow morning, I'm saying. If the virus vanishes tomorrow morning, still it will take 3 to 5 months. If there is a village from which 500 migrants had come to Mumbai, 125 will come and test it out, how it is, whether there is employment, whether there is security, what is there, and then they will tell the village that you can come, then only in small batches they will start coming, that's how it will happen. So, till Diwali, most of them will not come because they'll get engaged in some kind of agricultural activities, some small enterprise, whatever they can do there. So, having said that, if this virus threat continues, let us say September, October, November, then they won't come back for a minimum of 1 or 1.5 years. So, you can't really kickstart your economy as business as usual. You will have to innovate yourself in a completely different way. Another thing for the government to do is, which it is now beginning to do, investing in the migrant labor, not just giving them out doles as right now because of emergency they're doing that, but the important thing is to invest and spread the investment in the villages. Industry needs to think from mass production to production by the masses, how we can produce the same things in that village rather than all of them coming here and working in one place in horrible living conditions and working conditions. How it can be done without building massive infrastructure everywhere? How can we do it? All you have to focus on is quality control. Production, you just need training. Training process and quality control should become more important than having a prison-like industry. I'm sorry I'm using strong words, but I want people to get this. A factory is a prison. Once you get in, you can't get out for that many hours. Prison is also just like that. you get in and you can't get out for 8 years. Here you get in and you can't get out for 8 hours. It's not very different. Only thing is they're paying you money. Even in the prison, they pay money. At the end of… most people get some money when they get out. So this prison-like production centers must go, and productivity has to happen in a different atmosphere. For this, we have to invest immensely on training. Training and skill development we have to invest. Right now, only government is talking about skill development. Industry is normally trying to mop up people who have skills. That's not the way forward. If we want to build a strong economy, we have to invest. I'm saying, when I say we have to invest, not picking up an 18-year-old and trying to train him. I'm saying you have to invest much further down. Why is it that you are not investing in the schools? Because the school is clerical, it doesn't produce any skills. So we have to liberate the education system, and industry and business should be able to run. Some basics we can set. Education means what are the basics that everybody must have. Rest of it must be by option, according to employment requirements, according to industrial requirements. And we need to build the people, skillful people, and then quality control. In between, production can happen in much looser atmosphere. Well, when we get into nitty-gritty of how exactly to produce something, there may be many issues, but we can sort that out. But in principle, we have to move from mass production to production by masses. Right now, agricultural activity, we have done all these studies to see that, this is not something that people do not know. Nearly 500 million people in this country. Agricultural activity, to grow 2 successful crops, if you organize irrigation and security of his land with digital surveys and everything, it's almost like every piece of land is like India-Pakistan LOC or LAC now, it's a new example, that somebody is always trying to move it this way or that way. So here you own this land, your grandfather owned this land, you have owned this land for many generations, but still every day you have to go sit there because the other guy will push the survey stone a little bit like LAC is happening, all right? So, digital surveys and fixing of the land boundaries so that there is no ambiguity about which is my land, which is your land. If this is fixed, irrigation systems are integrated. If this happens, if someone goes to the field about 60 to 65 days in a year, he can grow 2 crops successfully. So remaining 300 days, what is he doing? He's just hanging around there, like our soldiers, million soldiers are hanging around on the borders just to say, this is India, this is India, this is India. Just like that, he's going and hanging around there to prove this is my land, this is my land, this is my land. This is just a crude way of managing human resource. We are not managing human potential properly, we are just letting 500 million people just sit around doing inane things simply because a few basic things we are not fixing. Land survey and irrigation systems, integration of irrigation systems, if you do this, you will see 500 million people, that is 1 billion hands you will release for 300 days in a year. That's a revolution. We need to do that. Industry and business should take this up of training. See, we are always saying, we put an application to the government and well, it got stuck in red tape somewhere and that's the end of it. I'm saying, why can't business come together now and take a representation to the Prime Minister, sit with him, and this is what we want, otherwise there is no way forward, all right? There's really no way forward without a skilled population. Whether that skill will come to me or to you later, it doesn't matter, but an ecosystem of skill is needed for all of us to evolve our businesses and the economy of this nation, and in many ways to contribute to the well-being of the world. If we don't do this now, when still we have a youthful population, if we don't do this now, well, we will lose the advantage.
Very enlightening, thank you.
Let me also encourage now Ms. Shivpriya Nanda to come in, and Ms. Nanda, let me assure you that all the men in this room and including on this panel, we are very chivalrous. It's just that you're speaking last because we wanted to save the best for the last. So may I encourage you to ask your question now?
Thank you so much, Nikunj.
Don't believe him, Shivpriya.
I have learned not to believe but humor men. Namaskaram, Sadhguru. It is such a joy to be in your presence and to be sharing this platform with you. I had, one question, and Rajan, of course, asked it. It's really about moving from of economy which is in fear and making it fair. And you've touched on some of those aspects in your answers to the previous question. So that really gives me a segue into a particular industry, which is the healthcare industry. It's called healthcare industry, and care should be the operative word. But it seems that even in this crisis, it's largely driven by sort of opportunistic profits rather than providing the care. Do you see this changing in the next few decades, where it moves from wealth creation goals to wellness creation goals?
See, we must understand this, that once we take a fundamental wrong step, after that, we can only take more wrong steps, because once we take a wrong direction. When I say wrong direction, let me take you back culturally in this country. In this country or in this culture, we always believed there are three things which should never be commercialized: health, education and spiritual process. These three things should never be commercialized. So if they should not be commercialized, what happened in the past was, the kings who were there always made sure there is enough for the doctors, for the teachers and for the spiritual transmission. There was always enough substance depending upon the wealth of the nation. Accordingly, certain largesse were always given to them so that they don't have to fend for themselves. They don't have to think about where is my bread, how do I earn, what do I do. So that was taken care of. Well, those times are over. You cannot talk about that anymore because we have moved into a market economy. Market economy means everybody has to do something to feed themselves and the people around them and whatever. So to what extent are you going to do is the question. So coming to that question, now we have taken to Western form of medicine, which is phenomenally capital, essential business. You want to set up a hospital, MRI machine means we import it from somebody, some other country, this machine, that machine. From what I know, because I've visited some of the machine manufacturing, medical equipment manufacturing companies in United States, everything is priced 500% more than the cost. That's how it is priced. Because there everything is insurance. I must tell you this example. An American citizen came here to our yoga center. He was a ex-B-52 bomber pilot and he was in his late 60s. And when he was here, he had a heart attack and we took him to the local hospital and an open heart surgery was needed. Then we got the surgery done because it was emergency, we got it done. Then he wanted to call his insurance. When he called the insurance, he said, this cost him about 2 lakhs or something at that time. So 2 lakhs was approximately, in those days, about $4,000. Today it's much less, but around $4,000. He said, this is the bill and I want to know the procedure because I've paid in India and how to manage this. So those guys said, that's okay, you can get the surgery done there, no problem. Okay, that is for the diagnosis, but how much is the surgery? He said, no, this is for surgery. They wouldn't believe, because this would cost $25,000 to $50,000 in United States, but here it costs $4,000. Have we made use of that? No. Anyway, we went into Western medicine. Did we really make use of that? We could have made India the hospital for the world, then we would have had really top-class arrangement so that our citizens also could enjoy that. We've not done that. We've done it in a small way because there are too many impediments for even healthcare industry to grow seamlessly, too many. But having said that, now between profit and profiteering is what you're talking, am I right?
Yes, yes.
Between profit and profiteering. So we need to understand this. Now once you built an hospital as a business, we must understand essentially legally it's a business. Now suddenly you want it to be a service center. How do they do it? Right now this is happening, I'm telling you our own plight right now. We have schools in rural India where schools are run with all, scholarship for almost 80% of the students are under scholarship, where people have been contributing from all over the world. But now there are no contributions because of this virus thing, there are hardly any contributions. But now the government passes a law. You cannot reduce the salary for teachers, you must pay the salary. No school, no fee, no contribution, but you must pay full salary. How do you pay? So private schools are arm twisting the parents. Either you pay us this much donation, otherwise we will chuck your child out of the school. What else will they do? For somebody else this may look like profiteering, but how else do they manage, I'm asking. Right now hospitals, they've invested hundreds of crores of rupees into building one hospital because everybody wants every equipment, even the atmosphere in the hospital, just the way it is in America. They want that kind of thing. So they've invested heavily. If you look at the hospital building, I'm talking about the good hospitals in the country, if you enter there, is that the way ordinary government buildings are in this country? Much higher scale, isn't it? So it costs money. Many hospital receptions are like five-star receptions. So it costs money. When you build that kind of business, and now suddenly you talk about service free of cost, when it is loaded with patients, it's not going to work. When we build a business, you should not have given the entity of business if you wanted them to serve. So the idea was government hospitals will serve, private hospitals will serve those who have the money to do it. But nobody foresaw the pandemic. Now you want them to serve, at least give them an assurance. All your salaries will take care of, just serve free for 3 months, no profit, no loss. Salaries and consumables, government will pay for it and run it free, all hospitals. 3 to 6 months, no profit, not a single rupee of profit, but you will not go into losses. You must take care of something, otherwise how do they run the hospitals? So some hospital may be an old hospital, they might have made enough money. Some may be just, they've taken investment from somewhere and built this hospital. Now if you go into this pandemic stuff and serve them free, they will go under. When they go under, will somebody pull them up? No, it will go bankrupt. So we need to understand, once we say an educational institution or a hospital or whatever else is a business entity, then it is based on profit. You cannot run it any other way. So what is profit, what is profiteering, it depends from which side of the window you're looking at it, all right? Somebody thinks this is most essential for them to survive. Somebody else thinks they can survive on nothing, on thin air. It doesn't work like that. I'm saying right now, in cities where you're reaching such a place where there are no hospital beds and people are going from pillar to post and dying unnecessarily, the government, at least if not for all the hospitals, wherever you're saying 100% of your beds we are taking, there you must say, we will pay the salaries for these 3 months or 4 months or whatever, we will take care of all the consumable expenses for you, no money, free, you serve. I'm sure they will do it. But if you just don't give any assurance and you say you serve because whenever there's political pressure you say something, that's not going to work, because it's a business, they have to run it. As I'm saying in the schools, right now we are in this dilemma. They say they have actually increased the minimum wage in this month in Tamil Nadu. They've increased the minimum wage and there is no revenue of any kind, but we have to pay increased thing. We have to pay full salary, but we cannot… this is the best thing. In the schools, you cannot ask the parents to pay their fee, child's fee right now, because they don't have money. And you have to pay full salary for the teachers because they don't have money. Where does the institution get money? Where is it supposed to come? So this kind of unrealistic expectations will not work. This is a time when everybody has to contribute, there's no question about it. But contribution cannot simply happen. If it's just 1 month, we would have all managed without problem. Now it's running into 4, 5, 6 months and we don't know how long. How do you manage? The only thing is we will close down the schools. When you close down, they're saying you cannot close a school. You have to keep it going, it doesn't matter how. How to do it? How to do it? So you run a school like a cattle shed, one teacher, 300 children, they're running schools like that. In our schools, we are running in such a way, there is substantial number of teachers with minimum number of children because we're concerned about the quality. But if you make these kind of laws, the only thing that'll happen is 300 children, one teacher, something he will do. So, I'm saying if we want to move into the space where in the Committee of Nations, we are at least reasonably there, then it's important we think through the whole problem, not ad hoc saying this and that, not labeling people, not labeling… See, right now, you're running a law firm. This COVID time, if I come with a case, well, I'll have to pay. Maybe I can beg you, please give me a discount. That's all I can do. I cannot say I won't pay because you have to run your institution. So in every profession, this problem is there. So when such a problem is there, more holistic looking is needed. But the simple solution for all this is, in India, we have health solutions of our own. For various chronic ailments, we have to bring this. We are going in the American system of healthcare. We need to understand American system of healthcare is worth 3.2 trillion per year, all right? For quarter the population that we are, for 350 million people, they spend $3.2 trillion. I think it's the most horrible thing to do because in an affluent country where you have variety of nourishment choices, variety of lifestyle choices, why are so many people sick? I don't understand. 3.2 trillion is larger than India's economy. An economy which serves 1.3 or 1.4 billion people, that much and much more you're spending on 350 million people, I think it's a crime against humanity if you ask me. It is a crime against humanity that for every small thing you're spending money like this when so many people are barely nourished. Nearly 30% of India's population is malnourished, when this is the condition. So the important thing is we need to invest in villages. We have traditional systems of medicine. Every day you don't have to run to doctor for small things. When something big, a surgery or something is needed, you go to the allopathic doctor. Otherwise, daily thing we can take care of within our own systems. We must make yogic practices compulsory. If you don't like yoga, you must run somewhere. If you must swim, you must run, you must do something. You don't do anything, you sit like a potato and you want the healthcare system to take care of you. This is not going to happen. Health is individual business. When illness comes, we'll go to doctor. But health is our business. First thing is make the population understand this from a young age. You being healthy is your business, it's not your doctor's business or government's business. Health is your business. This itself has not sunk into people's minds. We need to sink this in. If we don't do this, don't think we'll have a healthy nation. As I'm giving you the example of America, with a choice of nourishment and choice of lifestyle, why are so many people sick? When you have such choice of nourishment and lifestyle, it should be very easy to be healthy, isn't it? But no, you choose all the wrong things and you expect the government or the insurance or the company to take care of you, and that's going to cost. Can you afford, if you go by American standards, do you really believe, does anybody in this country believe, because we are building infrastructure like this, do you believe someday for this 1.3 billion people, you will give health care like United States? That means you need $12 trillion just for health care. Our aim right now is to reach just $5 trillion economy, all right? $12 trillion healthcare, when will you reach? You won't do it in 2 centuries, I'm saying. It's most unrealistic. And that's not the way to approach this nation's health. We need to bring this, well, there are efforts to bring yoga into everybody's life. That also everybody makes a controversy. If you say yoga, you will say, my religion doesn't accept. If you say this, something… Okay, if your religion doesn't accept yoga, run and climb a mountain, huh? Do some damn thing with your body to stay healthy. But you don't do anything and then you expect these kind of things. Now, private hospitals which you invested heavily, you want them to serve free. No, this is something right now, whichever hospital government wants to take over 100% of the beds, you can say 25% please serve free. 100% if you want to take care, please take care of the salaries and the consumables. Let them go without profit for 3 to 6 months, it's okay, and give them relief from whatever loans they have, interest-free, you keep the loan for 6 months. It is a fair way to handle things, otherwise it's not going to happen. Now they are arm-twisting patients, they are not releasing dead bodies, all kinds of ugly things happening, all right? All kinds of ugly things happening simply because we don't think of a problem and a solution through and through, ad hoc, jumping here and there.
Allow me to take some…
I'm sorry if I'm sounding very harsh, but the situation is appalling, you know.
So let me also encourage some questions which are also coming from some of the participants of this leadership forum, of ETLIC leadership forum. And a very common question, Sadhguru, which if I scan, is clearly towards addressing the challenges for the migrant laborers and how can leaders come together in order to prevent job losses right now?
See, I don't know, this is going on everywhere. I think this is more political than economic. Everybody's saying so many jobs lost in the last 3 months. Arey, nobody has a job. Where is the question of… they're saying 36% job losses. Where is 36%? As far as I'm concerned, 100% there's no job, all right? Only on the news channel you guys are active otherwise, nobody has any job. 3 months lockdown has been there, where is the job? Everything has stopped, so there is no job, except fortunately in this country, 60% of the population still in agriculture. So it's okay, otherwise just imagine, if you were an industrial nation, 1.4 billion people, this is the problem that our adjacent neighbor has. They also have similar population and highly industrialized. If it really locks down, they didn't lock down as we did, but if they had to really lock down 1.3 billion people without jobs, oh, you had it. Fortunately in this country, 60% is in agriculture. So they still have something to do, they're just going about their business because it's on their own fields, all right? And it doesn't really affect the virus or whatever, they're generally alone on the field. There's no such… social distancing is normal in a village. So because of the 60% chunk is in agriculture, you don't have such a massive problem as you would have if all of them were in the industry, office or something else, services or whatever. So job losses are there and it will be there because business as usual is not close by. In my estimate, I could be wrong, you tell me, Nikunj, you are the economy man. But in my guess, in my estimate, in my mind, I think, let's say by mid-September or end of September, if this virus issue is over, I think by March, April, most of it will be back, but a whole lot of migrant workers, at least 30% of them may not come back because they will find means. So it's the best time for us to invest in rural India to ensure that they don't come back. It's good that they don't come back, cities will be less crowded. We must use technology and other things to see that we need less people to manage a city, but agriculture must get a boost. Agriculture must get a boost means, see, as a nation, from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, the latitudinal spread that we have is very rare, very few nations ever have this. And the terrain and the soil conditions and the weather conditions that we have, we can grow almost any crop that you want, 12 months of the year. There are very few nations where you can grow crops 12 months of the year. This we have not made use of. We've just not made use of this. If you make use of this latitudinal spread, and 60% of the population is in agriculture, when you say agriculture, it's magic, believe me. When I say magic, it's the magic of turning mud into food, it's not a small thing. Highly educated people, I will give you a patch of land, you try to grow one crop, you will see what a disaster it will be. Because there's an intrinsic knowledge in a farmer, because he looks illiterate, people think he knows nothing, we're eating because of him. And he knows something that even if you do PhD in agriculture, you will not know some simple things which are most vital for producing food, and they've been doing this for generations. So this 60% of skill that we have, see, we think skill means you have to teach them something industrial. Why are we not thinking of enhancing agricultural skills? Because it's already there, all you have to do is bring technology and enhance that, and government put pressure to open up markets in various nations. One kilogram of… I'm just taking example, I could be a little wrong on the numbers, but it's somewhere there. 1 kilogram of potato in India, the farmer is getting only somewhere between 4 to 6 rupees per kilogram. In the marketplace, generally it may be selling at 25, 30 rupees. But 1 kilogram of potato in United States will easily sell around $1.5 to $2 per kilogram. So that is what? That is nearly 150 rupees. If you can send this potato to United States, I will vouch for this because I know enough about these things, I am a good cook also, so I know this stuff. The potato that you grow in India, the quality of it, the nourishment value of it, and the Iowa potato, which is very famous in United States, what quality of it, everything has been genetically modified, there is no taste in it, there is no quality in it, it's just like, it feels like a tasteless apple, that's how a potato is. This potato, if it goes there, and if it gets 1.5 or $2 per kilogram, farmer can get 25 rupees for his crop. This is it. India's economy will boom, 60% of the population, if they earn 2 to 3 times more, finished. And it's such a broad-based economy, nobody can disturb it, virus cannot disturb it, fluctuations in stock market cannot disturb it. This is what needs to happen. For this to happen, we need to integrate and organize input level. Input level means, one thing is the organic substance in the soil, and irrigation must be integrated. If you integrate irrigation and integrate the marketing capability of the farmer, right now he's all small holdings, he's not able to organize anything by himself. The FPO movement is a fantastic movement, the farmer producer organization, but not enough is behind it. And we still have tax laws in the country, which we got it relaxed by appealing to the Prime Minister to some extent. Up to 100 crores they've exempted this. The law is like this, if you grow anything as an individual farmer, there's no income tax for you. But if 10 of us get together and grow something, there's 30% income tax on you. So we are making sure we never get together and grow anything. I will grow in my 2 acres, you will grow in your 2 acres. So I have my own borewell, my own electric connection, my own barbed wire fence, and you are just next door and you have the same things and the same things. This is a terrible waste of resources and no productivity, because the problem of Indian agriculture is lack of scale. Scale cannot be created like a communist country, you can't integrate the land, but you can integrate irrigation input and marketing. This can be easily done. This is what the effort of FPO is, but still it needs a whole lot of push for it to happen. Now they have relaxed the tax laws up to 100 crores. But if I earn more than 100 crores as an FPO, then you will have to pay 30% tax. So you are making sure we never grow big as farmers. I mean, these policies are all from elsewhere.
I'll also encourage more members of the ET ILC forum to post their questions. We have a little over 20 minutes still on this session. I would encourage as many questions from the invitees. So I'll pick up one more question, and that is coming from Mr. Vineet Majgaonkar. Sadhguru, why should rural economy be a representation of agriculture? Why can't high-tech businesses be rooted in rural India? And to add one more word which everybody in the business community is using now, Atmanirbharta. What can be done to increase India's Atmanirbharta?
Well, I know it's a newly coined word, but that's what I said, production by the masses. As I said, in agriculture, if somebody invests about 60 days to 65 days, he can grow 2 crops on his existing land. Remaining 300 days, what is he doing? He's doing the same things our soldiers are doing on LAC. How many times do you have to tell your neighbor, this is my land? If it was properly fixed, if international boundaries were properly fixed, there was no need every day to tell them this is my land, isn't it? The same is happening at every level. Every day the farmer goes to his land because he fears if he doesn't go for 2 months, his neighbor will push the boundary a little bit. Salami cuts he will do, just as it's happening on LAC right now. Okay? Small pieces of land somebody will take away. So why can't we use technology, do digital surveys and we fix the boundaries of everybody's land and there should be no more dispute anymore. Once it's fixed, it's done. If you do this and integrate agriculture, he's just going there to switch on the pump. Every day he has to go there and then he has to switch off the pump. Well, today, there is technology that the pump can come on and go off by itself. Or if there was integrated technology, if let's say 10,000 acres of land had one irrigation system and the farmer just has to pay a rent for that, if you do that, his hands are free. What will he do with his free hands? You can… one of the key things that we must do in the country, which we have not done, is microprocessors. We have the skill, we have the hands to do it, because for generations we've been involved in craft and weaving and fine things. Why can't we do microprocessors in the village? In every home you can do it. It's very much possible. Whoever goes into microprocessing today, in many ways will dominate the world, all right? Or we don't want to dominate the world, we can serve the world, if that's how you want to look at it. But this is needed, we need to do that. That's exactly what I said, we must release the hands of the farmer without taking him off the village. This is important. And in the village, you must build infrastructure. You need a cinema hall, I'm saying cinema first, all right? First the cinema hall, a multiplex for cinema halls, and a small level shopping malls of their own, and sports arenas, all this is needed. If you want to keep people in the village, right now there is nothing out there. The moment he gets few rupees extra, he's in the city, all right? Because there is nothing out there. It's very, very barren and there's nothing out there. Unless somebody is engaged in agriculture in a passionate manner, there's really nothing out there for him to live by. So you need to create infrastructure. That's why I said spreading investments does not mean only agriculture. You should not disturb the agricultural strength of this nation, this is very important. Just because you want to produce something, electronics or machinery or something, you should not disturb that. Right now, please let us understand this in these virus times. Suppose 60% of the population was not involved in agriculture, or let us say, we did not have agricultural capabilities, our food was coming from elsewhere and we don't have money because 3 months of lockdown. First thing that'll happen is starvations. Right now, starvation is not happening. Even if people don't have money, there is food in the country. This is important. Always, for long-term well-being of a nation, we should not take away our agricultural skills from our population, which we are doing in a disastrous way right now because of compulsory school education. This is a big disaster. If I talk about this, I know a whole lot of activists will tomorrow pounce on me, but let me speak about it. Because of compulsory school education, Indian agriculture is going to be ruined. Right now, you please go and survey, we've done some small surveys, not even 2% of the farmers want their children to go back into agriculture. And if those 2% of the farmers want their children to go back, in that not even 20% of the children will go back, in spite of the parents wanting them to go back into agriculture. This is the condition. So in another 25–30 years, who is going to grow food for you? You think you can go to school till you're 18 years of age, do high school, and suddenly go back in the field and work? This is not that kind of work. Neither physically nor mentally, most children who go to school are capable of going back to the farm and working. So it's important that school does not mean just clerical education, everybody learning tidbits of chemistry, biology, physics and some nonsense that you will never use in your life. In rural education, agriculture must become a significant part of their education. It's very, very important. For this, whole revolution in how we're looking at education needs to change. This education that you're doing right now is actually Her Majesty's service.
Let me now go back to Ms. Nanda once again, and she's a very senior and a very active member of the India Leadership Council. Ms. Nanda, over to you for your next question.
Thanks, Nikunj, and it's, one sec, I'm unmuted. So thanks, Nikunj, and it's good that, you know, Sadhguru was just talking about education, and that really brings me to a very interesting phenomena that we've experienced, all people with children. Mine are grown up. You know, school-going children, college-going children are hearing about how online education is likely to, you know, replace physical education. And my question to you, Sadhguru, is that really good for children? Because, you know, having grown up going to school regularly, you know, the anticipation of going to school, meeting friends, and that whole excitement waiting for the bell to ring so that you could go back home, it created a whole sense of, you know, joy and wellness, if I may say so. So is moving completely to, you know, online education the way of the future? Is that sensible, just as you've spoken about agriculture and education related to agriculture? If you can throw some light on that.
See, suppose school education, early school education, if it goes into online mode, then one thing that will inevitably happen is either one parent, either a man or a woman, that's their individual choice, one parent cannot go to work. Maybe they cannot even work from home, probably, full-time they cannot work, because a child is at home means, well, he'll keep you busy, huh? If you have two children, they'll keep you full-time on. Right now, the relief for the parents is the children are gone for 6 hours, 8 hours, and they'll come back. If they are at home, then you have to be there, completely dedicated. I don't know if the world is ready for that. So it's easy to talk about it because given any situations, people will start talking loosely like this, everything is going to be online, everything is going to be online. See, information can be easily delivered online. But the idea of a school was not about information. Unfortunately, a lot of schools have become like that, all about textbook learning. For textbook learning, I would say online is better than listening to the teacher, definitely. But the inspiration and learning learning the skills of being with people, surviving among your peers and managing your whole social situation, not being exposed to the larger society which could be very cruel for a child, and there could be enormous amount of exploitation and things, even by the parents, I'm saying. Exploitation does not mean only sexual exploitation. Children are exploited in many ways. You make them feel small, that's exploitation for me. In some way, you are a tiny little fellow, you don't know anything, keep quiet, keep quiet. This itself is a terrible exploitation. I think this exploitation happens to 80% of the children from a very early age. Few children manage to break themselves out of it. Most of them, even when I see them as full-grown adults, successful human beings in the world, still in their mind that exploitation is still playing a role in who they are. Because that exploitation at an early age is so high that parents treat them like some small creatures who don't know anything. Either by overly pampering them, maybe they consider this love and affection, or simply putting them down. It depends on who the parents are, accordingly they will do things. But fundamentally, this atmosphere of the peer group is important, where a child feels, at least in his height, is equal to everybody, and that gives him some sense of an equitable world. There also there will be bullies, there also there are problems, but it's not the same as dealing with adults per se. Among 100 adults, there's one child. That's not a good thing, because inevitably he has to look up at everybody, which is not a good way to grow up. So that age group company is most vital for healthy development of a child. Having said that, the way the schools are being run right now, like factories, that every child is put through the same stuff. Everybody is supposed to come out of the same extruder. This is causing a huge damage to the innate human genius that is there. Now we are running one school, we're planning to make one or two more. This school we are running in such a way, for every 4.5 children, there is one adult, caring adult. All teachers are volunteers and highly educated people putting their whole life into this. When you want to educate like this, it's an ideal school, it's fantastic, but scaling up is not possible. Can I provide this kind of education that we are providing in Isha Home School to everybody in the world? No. It's simply not possible, because economically it's not viable to do it, because everybody is working free for me. It works. If they ask for a salary, I won't be able to pay. So this is possible in an ideal condition. To nurture individual children like human beings should be nurtured to grow, get the best out of them. This parents should do, all right? So if the schooling or information part of the schooling happens online, then this will be a full-time job for the parents. But are parents willing to do that? Parents are not willing to do that. They want their children to grow up somewhere and they must enjoy the security of having a child, and for all the money that they're piling up, they need somebody biologically connected with them to receive that later on. This is how the whole mechanism is working. So this is the time we need to understand, we shouldn't waste this time. When there's a disruption, we must sincerely examine every aspect of our life. How are we parenting our children? Do we really enjoy children? Is it necessary for every one of us to have a child, first of all? Because human beings are not an endangered species. If you were a tiger, I would say you must have children. But you're a human being, we are already too many. There is no compulsion that every one of us must have a child. And right now, the population predictions are by 2050, it will be nearly 10 billion. If there are 10 billion people on this planet, believe me, neither you or me, nor your children, or my children, or my grandchildren, your grandchildren, nobody is going to live well on this planet. Doesn't matter what education you have, what wealth you have, what technology you have, believe me, you are not going to live well with 10 billion people on this planet. And above all the other creatures are going to evaporate from this planet. Already 1 in 5 species of both plant and animal life is in an endangered list. So if 10 billion people means 4 out of 5 will be in endangered species, that means life on this planet will be endangered. That's what it means. So, I think this is a time for all of us to think, are we conducting our life consciously? Whether it comes to our family structure, whether it comes to our business structure, our national construct, are we doing this consciously or are we simply blindly doing it? See, if you look at the way we are driving our economic engine, just say pre-virus situation, all nations, all businesses, every one of us driving on full throttle, but no steering wheel in our hands. We don't know where we're going. Does humanity know where we are driving our economy? In which direction? To what destination are we driving? Does anybody have an idea? So many economists who are going on throwing out numbers, ask them to come out with a clear concept, this is where we are driving. This is the place the world will be in the next 20 years or 30 years or 50 years. Can somebody say that? They're only throwing out numbers, GDP, growth rate. What are you going to grow? Because the amount of resource that you have, everything that you do, whether you do a safety pin or a computer or a car or a rocket, it is all coming from the planet, all right? Everything, including our bodies, is coming from the planet. How many people should we make? How many machines should we make? How many cars should we make? How many how many computers should we make? How many safety pins should we make? Should we not have a plan, I'm asking? Without a plan, we're just driving. Virus has brought some sense to us. There are many difficulties, many challenges. I'm not trying to belittle the thing. Above all, the loss of life, loss of dear ones, all this is there. But it is a good time for us to look at where do we want to go as a generation of people. This is the best time to look at it.
We've got time for one last question, and then after that I'll encourage Mr. Sridhar to share his insights on what his understanding as a leader is from today's interaction. But Mr. Navani, last question. The idea of creating this entire webinar, I would say, was to encourage business leaders like yours to share your perspective and also associate with the kind of good work Isha Foundation and Sadhguru essentially is trying to do for the country. So if I may encourage you to ask one more question.
Sure. Thanks, Nikunj. Sadhguru, you just talked about this opportunity for us as the world to see where we can go. I think one of the things that the lockdown has done, of course, in addition to working from home and so many other things, is that I think in some way it has made people introspect, and really made people look inwards. Do you believe that this accelerated pace of spirituality in India or the rest of the world will happen as an outcome of this? And what could that collective outcome be, right? Like what you mentioned. Do you believe that that transition or that shift is happening, has happened? I would love to hear your views.
Well, it is always happening, but the question is always of scale. How many people, what percentage of people will come to their senses and look at their life more profoundly? That's a question. So instead of asking whether it is happening or not, it's always happening, especially when our mortality stares us in our face. See, we must understand, the basis of the need for spiritual process is only because we are mortal. Suppose you were immortal, what is there to know? There's simply nothing to know. Spirituality essentially means what is the nature of my existence? Where do I come from? Where do I go? What happens beyond this body? Only beyond the body, what is the possibility? That is the spiritual dimension. Not only after we are dead, even when we have the body, what is beyond this body? When that question arises, there is spiritual process. Suppose you and me were not mortal, we were immortal. Would this question arise in our minds? Never. Now with this pandemic, definitely mortality is staring in our face. One of the fundamental responsibilities that we have is that we must stay alive through this period, every one of us. This is most important. And we must make sure people around us stay alive. This is the business of every human being, all other things are secondary. The first and foremost thing is, you stay alive, I stay alive, and make sure everybody around us stays alive. This is the most fundamental things. That means there is a concern of mortality, which is a good thing, because mortality is not something you must remember once in a way. You must constantly be aware of it. What being aware of mortality means is that you're conscious, you're on a limited lease of time. If you do not understand this is the time you have and how to arrange your energy, how to arrange your priorities, what you should invest this little time that you have in your life, if that planning is not there, then you will live a crazy life. Most people are doing what they don't care for in their life, that is the tragedy of life. They are not doing what they truly care for because they think they're immortal. If you are conscious that you're mortal, do you have time to fight with somebody? Do you have time to be miserable? Do you have time to spend time in things that you don't care for? If you understand what is ticking away right now is not your watch, what is ticking away right now is children at home somewhere. What is ticking away right now is your life. As this is doing tick-tick, life is going away, isn't it? As you sit here. As you and me sit here, our life is going away. If we are conscious of this, we will do what really matters to us. If you and me and everybody else in this world are genuinely doing what truly matters to them, believe me, we have a fantastic world.
Thank you.
Sadhguru, hi, thank you so much for your time, highly inspirational. You spoke about ecology being part of every democratic party manifesto, so true. Mass production to production by masses, I think that's a great thought process. Invest in rural area, use technology in agriculture, and the most important is every individual must take health as his own business. Being an ILC member, I'm really pleased to be here, and it was a great learning for me, as would, I believe, should be for all of us who are in this group meeting as well. I believe that as a group of leaders of this industry, we hold a huge responsibility towards a larger country, and hence the ILC member group I would urge each and every person to come together to chart out a roadmap for change, which is inclusive and focuses on sustenance all around. Is there any way that we can be associated with you, with the Isha Foundation, to really kind of make this change happen? Please direct us, and I would like you to conclude with a few words how we can work together, and essentially what is your vision for the new India, and can we take this crisis to really build a great nation?
Well, it's only in times of crisis that leadership is of utmost importance. When everything is running well, who cares? We don't even want to know who is the leader, all right? When there is a crisis, what kind of leadership matters? So having said that, if all of you business leaders and in whatever format, if you come together and if it is towards nation building, I will do whatever is necessary. There are many aspects which I feel are stuck in the cogs of human minds in such a way they're all thinking from the past. Their idea of future is incremental improvement of the lousy things that we have created. No, there is a way to completely look outside of that, to look at life fresh and see what is it that we need. Just because we've invested in something yesterday, we don't have to drag that yesterday into tomorrow. It is unnecessary. Yesterday should be gone and tomorrow we must create something else. The greatest thing about a human being is, we are able to learn not necessarily by experience. Everybody talking, you must learn from experience, learn from experience. So by the time you learn, you will be dead, all right? The significance of human ingenuity and human intelligence is, without experience you can learn. The leadership should not learn from experience. The labor down, the last man out there, he will learn by experience, that's his nature. But leadership means you must learn things that nobody has experienced till now, things that have been never done till now. If you don't go that way, then there'll be only incremental changes. We cannot afford this because in this country, nearly 30% is malnourished. In the last 20 years of economic development, the numbers say that we pulled out nearly 240 million people out of below the poverty line. But if we don't conduct the next few months right, they will go straight back below the poverty line once again. Last 20-25 years of effort will go all waste and they'll go back there, and how that will play out in terms of social unrest and various other things, nobody can predict. So it's very important that leadership, particularly business leadership, comes together, puts their brains together. What experience you have is fine, I'm not saying it's not at all useful, it's important. The experience that you have is very important, but we should not bank entirely on experience, because this virus and this pandemic has offered us a new platform where it's not your experience, it's your ingenuity that matters. So let's make that happen for this country. Thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you to Sadhguru for his guidance and for his wonderful time. I also want to thank all the members of the council for joining us. This is my second time I'm interacting with some of you. And trust me, I'm speaking out of personal experience. This is one of the most powerful leadership forums we have in India. You all are masters of your craft. The country needs you right now. And this is a time everybody is looking up to this council in order to sit around, do brainstorming and come up with ideas so that we can build a strong and a stable nation. I'm going to quote Sadhguru here, something I learned from him very early, which is that past always lives in mind. So I think that is something which I would like to just bring out what Sadhguru has taught me. And thank you once again, Sadhguru. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your guidance. And thank you to all the members of ILC for joining us. And thank you for making this session a wonderful session.
Thank you very much, all of you, and my best wishes and blessings for all of you for this new future that awaits us. It all depends how we handle it. Either it is a disaster or it is an entirely new possibility, entirely depends on how we address this new situation that's in front of us. Wishing you all the best. Thank you very much.
Namaskaram.
Thank you, namaskaram, thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you too.